What's happening, perfectionists? My name is Russell Holiday. This is the Nothing is Perfect podcast. And today we bring you a couple of wonderful gentlemen as per usual. Today, we've got none other than Trevor Beggs from Locked On Canucks and the Daily Hive. We're going to chat with him about what he thinks about the Canucks' new look front office, the head coaching and the assistant coaches that have been hired, Abbotsford's new head coach. We'll talk about what he thinks about what's going to happen with the Canucks season this year for a couple different players. And we'll get into just a bunch of different stuff about the Vancouver Canucks as well. The Silver Fox, Dustin Boydell, will be back on the show. We're going to chat about the schedule that just came out for the entire regular season. We're going to talk about in depth about the Abbotsford Canucks' new head coach. We'll look at the new numbers that have been arrived for a couple different players on the Vancouver Canucks roster. We'll get into the newest development coach and some signings in the Abbotsford Canucks system as well. We'll get into some of the league news with Bedard signing, Robertson signing, and Jet Greaves going to arbitration. It's going to be a lot of fun, so stick around. And to start off, as I mentioned, Trevor Beggs, here he is on the Nothing is Perfect podcast. All right, sports reporter at the Daily Hive and co-host of Locked On Canucks with Kyle Bowen. Welcome to the Nothing is Perfect podcast. Trevor Beggs, what's up, my dude?
No, Russell, happy to be here, man. Happy to be here. Unfortunately, I'm on the East Coast, not the West Coast, so I'm recording outside. There's bugs everywhere, man, but it's all worth it to be here with you, man.
At least it's Ottawa and not something else, eh?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not the center of the universe, man. No, we can't be in that place.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, how much pressure are you, Kyle, feeling these days? Because Sportsnet 650 gets shut down all of a sudden, and you guys get a shout out as one of 6 podcasts that you need to check out. Is that pressure, or does that just make you feel good?
No, man, there's no pressure at all, man. I appreciated the love and the shout out there. I mean, Kyle and I, we've obviously been doing Locked On since 2023 now, but we've been doing our own thing on, shout out to Nucks Misconduct, rest in peace. Actually still going with a couple of the guys there. Shout out to Jimmy and Westy and Kent over there. But yeah, we've been behind the mic since 2017. So we just love what we do. We have fun. We're not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay, man. But yeah, no, pressure's not the right word, man. We're just whether there's like 10 people watching or 1,000 people tuning in, it doesn't matter to us, man. Which it's the same thing.
Yeah, I remember. I think I saw your appearance on another podcast. I think it might have been the Line Change or something like that with Tyler, and you talked about the fact that your videos are still up. So I went and checked it out. I think I left a comment for you there, and it was the same thing, right? Like, you guys have obviously got more polished over the years, and things have got more dialed in, but it was still that same vibe of you and Kyle just hanging out and talking about Canucks. So what's that been like? Because how many years has it been now that you guys have been chatting Canucks on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, we had our first show was called We Talkin' Hockey on YouTube. Like, not many viewers at all, but we were trying to build something and get some chemistry behind the mic. I think one of my best takes in the early days was like the Canucks need to draft Quinn Hughes, and that take looked good for a while, and then maybe not so good by the end of it there. But yeah, 2017 is kind of when it started. I've known Kyle since 2011. But yeah, we talking hockey, and then we had Silky and Filthy on the Nucks Misconduct Network, sipping on a 40 during the 2019-20 playoff run, caught some steam. But yeah, so we've been behind the mics for a while. I mean, we're just a couple of dumb Canucks fans that love talking hockey, man. So yeah, it's we're just blessed that people want to listen to us.
Yeah, and then your work at the Daily Hive. I always check out your articles. What's that been like going from? Because it was BCIT you graduated from, right? From the journalism program.
Shout out to Surrey.
Oh, Kwantlen. Yeah, Kwantlen. Okay. And then the transition into the writing and the paperwork. How do you find that the two kind of gigs meld together, and how do they play off each other?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, man. I mean, I actually think I'm probably a better writer than I am a podcaster. Not that I think I'm a shitty podcaster or anything, but I always kind of dreamed of being in like broadcasting and being in media. I didn't know if I had many other skills as a teenager, but I definitely love sports and I love to write. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been podcasting with Kyle since 2017, but I've been writing since 2013. Like started with Van City Buzz way back in the day. So, Yeah, and just kinda just blessed to take on a full-time opportunity over the past year with Daily Hive. I mean, it was something I kinda grinded at for 12 years before I got it. So, yeah, I mean, writing about sports is the best thing in the world, so, if I could spend most of my day doing that, I'm living a pretty good life.
That's good. That's good. So let's run through the Vancouver Canucks offseason so far because nobody wants to talk about last season. It is an absolute write off. Or I should say, is there anything you take out of last season that you can take as a positive? Like, is there anything you can pull out of that disaster of a season with Adam Foote at the helm that you can say that was a good thing?
Well, I think I'm glad that the organization came to their senses that Adam Foote and Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin weren't the right people for the job. I think that's a very big positive from last season. Um, and I like to think, maybe it's a little hippy dippy, but everything happens for a reason, right? You bring in Adam Foote, not suited for the job, and I'm not just saying that because this guy called me out in a press conference. um, I think he's a nice guy. I don't think he was ever suited to be a head coach in the NHL, and I'm glad the Canucks came to their senses on that one. I think Jim Rutherford had probably done more damage over the past couple of years. I mean, entertaining for us on the media side, but just running his mouth way too much with the Quentin Hughes stuff. And, Canuck fans know this guy was saying way too much at times too, especially the JT Miller, Elias Pettersson situation. So it was time. The Canucks, I don't know if they would have made those decisions if last season was a complete disaster. So I think that is, to me, the biggest positive of the last season is the Canucks were forced finally to go into a rebuild. And it's something this team should have done a decade ago.
Is that the biggest compliment you can give to Jim Rutherford that he's the first executive in the history of this team that has convinced them to do a full rebuild?
Yeah. When you say it like that, probably. I mean, another big compliment to him is he's entertaining to listen to, man. Like,
Mhm.
you and I, we want to be entertaining to listen to. I mean, you're definitely entertaining to listen to. I don't know about myself, but Jim Rutherford's an entertaining guy to listen to. But yeah, from a Canucks perspective, the fact that he tanked this team into the bottom of the standings, they tanked to the bottom of the standings under his leadership. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So they finally get the old crew out. They start bringing everyone else in. The first announcement, Sedin's come in, and they immediately announce that they've hired Ryan Johnson. So that's great. They pretty quickly bring in Darren Hermerson and player development. A little bit later, Richard Seeley comes in. So that's kind of the executives that have been brought in at different levels and different departments. What kind of grade do you give to the team so far on how they've been doing their jobs through this offseason, even though we're only halfway through, I think?
Yeah, probably somewhere close to like a B plus A minus, I would say. Yeah, look, when the whole Ryan Johnson Evan Gold thing was going on, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of craving something different in this market. Like, let's bring in a guy with a completely different perspective, a guy that comes from a legal background. Really seemed like a whip smart guy, and yeah, obviously it didn't work out that way, but I do think Ryan Johnson has fully earned this opportunity. And look, like the moves he's made so far, you look at free agency, like the shrewd bets with Paul Cotter and Luke Shen. I really like the Paul Cotter bet. I talked about it on Locked On Canucks last week. I think this guy's got the potential to be the next Kiefer Sherwood. I'm not saying he's necessarily going to do it, but he's got the ability to do it with a similar skill set. The Jamie Alexiak signing was one I was touting. It's nice to see. When I write about a guy saying the Canucks should sign this guy and they actually sign him, that's always a good thing. I like that. Obviously, the draft went pretty well too. You trade Marcus Pettersson. Like, to me, maybe the only thing that you get graded against was maybe not selling off more veterans, right? And I look specifically at Philip Hronik. I know he's got the no move; he doesn't want to go anywhere, so you can't grade them too harshly on that. But man, when you see some of the prices that were paid on the trade market for defensemen, you're like, oh man, we probably should have traded Philip Hronik. But there's still time to do that. So really, it's been one of like the most positive times for the Canucks over the past decade. 2024 was a lot of fun. So was the bubble season, Pettersson entering the Hart conversation in 22-23. But to me, this is like right up there with it because there's a direction and they're doing the right things right now. So, yeah, I'm going to go A minus overall. There's a lot of positivity. And I think so far over the first couple months on the job, and hiring Manny Malhotra would be another big plus too. They deserve a lot of accolades for what they've done so far.
Now, talking about Manny Malhotra, they announced obviously all of his new assistants and video coaches, everything that came out to Jordan Smith, Ryan Papaioannou, Jason Krog, and Andrew Shaw getting brought in. So filling out the roster a little bit for Manny Malhotra and his team. Were you upset in the same sense? A lot of people, when you talk about Evan Gold, people wanted that outside voice. You get a little bit of that from Ryan Papaioannou, but obviously the three other guys are just promotions from Abbotsford. Is it enough for you, or were you hoping to see more outside voices there as well?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'm trusting in Manny and Ryan first and foremost. I know with Ryan Papaioannou, I mean, man, this guy, yeah, he looks like a hockey player, eh? Just got that mean look to him. Look at the hockey DB card in this guy, the black eye. Like I wouldn't want to mess around with this guy. I don't know if I'd be pushing him in a press conference like I pushed Adam Foote earlier this year. but um, I mean, with Ryan Papaioannou, like the thing that worried me a little bit was some of the negative things being said about him in the Boston market, right? Reports that guys in the AHL didn't want to play under him, and were looking at different opportunities, and they didn't develop guys all that well. And I honestly think there was probably some fair comments there. But I think that gets superseded by the fact that you have Manny Malhotra there, who I think has the potential to be, maybe another John Cooper or Marty St. Louis or Rod Brindamore. Like I think he's got that character about him. He's got the smarts about him too. You listen to his Abbotsford Canucks press conferences. And when we heard it here in Vancouver when he got hired, just a very articulate guy, comes from a good place. There's not a bad word said about him. I think he's got the ability to be one of the best coaches in the NHL, and I think that supersedes maybe some of the nitpicking with some of the assistant coaches that were chosen, and Jason Krog too. Like I'll say, just seeing him around Rogers Arena, just a nice dude as well. On the practice a lot with the Canucks, both in Abbotsford and Vancouver last season. So he's been around the team a lot. Yeah, I'm happy for him to get the promotion and another BC bud as well, Fernie BC. So yeah, I think I'm not stressing too much over the assistant coaches. Let's just see let's see how this season goes. We'll nitpick once we see the power play and the penalty kill and all that stuff. But for now, I think it's yeah, not something I'm stressing about.
I mean, for me, I think my excitement level for Jordan Smith is probably more than a lot of people, but I just draw the comparison to what he did with the young defense down there in Abbotsford. And I feel like he's going to be the kind of guy who can step in and continue the progress for a lot of these guys. I mean, DP last year didn't look as good as he did. We talk about Adam Foote's system, but when DP had a little bit of trouble, they sent him back down to Abbey. And when he got back, things still weren't as rosy as we were hoping them to be, but it seemed like even that small amount of time spent back under Jordan Smith actually helped his game again. So do you think that kind of thing can continue, even though it's taking the next step to the NHL level for Jordan Smith and the defense core?
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a great point there, right? And it's again, I go back to how good of a job we thought Adam Foote was doing with the defense. Then he moves into the head coaching role, and he was, on the wrong seat of the bus, right? And I still have questions about how much work how much influence he actually had on the defense that was considered to be pretty good and through 23, 24, and 24, 25. But Jordan Smith, I think another good success story was Victor Mancini. Victor Mancini during that playoff run in 23, 24 was an animal. And even last year on a very depleted Abbotsford Canucks team had some really good moments as well. So like that's the guy I'd be watching for next season to see, okay, Jordan Smith, if you're going to do something similar up here with the Vancouver Canucks, what are you going to bring out of a guy like Victor Mancini? Um, and I think too, just getting the system in place, right? Like again, talk about a guy that's had some familiarity with Manny Malhotra. The system worked in Abbotsford, right? Um, Again, last season it was more so injuries and having an ECHL lineup that was the problem. I mean, hell, their leading point getter was Nils Amon. He had 6 goals last season. Like the offense was a disaster. And the goaltending wasn't great either. I think the defense might have been quietly one of the better things about that Abbotsford team last season. So from that perspective, I do get your excitement about Jordan Smith, and yeah, let's see what he can bring here with the Vancouver Canucks as well.
Yeah. And then more recently, finally, a little bit more news coming out. Ryan Papaioannou is, I think, how you say it. Am I right on that? I think Ryan Papaioannou.
I'm not Greek, man, but I thought it was Papiano.
Okay, yeah, that was
It's not more fun to say Papiano, Ryan Papiano.
He's done a little bit of a press now. He talked about the fact that obviously he's coming in from a winning environment, all those years spent down in Brooks, and then stepping into the ECHL last year, immediately giving the best winning record they've had down there since I think 2015. So seems like he did some really good work down there for the ECHL affiliate of the Pittsburgh Penguins too. Now he gets the chance to step up to the AHL. And one thing he said in a lot of his press so far is I am excited to work under Manuel Holtra and have alignment, because that is something that we saw when it was Rick Tocchet and Manuel Holtra. Guys could take a step from Abbotsford, come up to Vancouver and be ready to go. It sounds like that's what's going to be happening with Ryan as well. So, I mean, people talk about the budget too, and we can talk more about that. But do you think that Ryan can end up being that piece that can help develop some of these guys and continue that process of this rebuild?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. We talked about Ryan Johnson, Evan Gold. I think a bit of a similar situation with Ryan Papaioannou and Yossi Ahokas, right? Where I think Ahokas, in terms of his qualification, was probably more qualified for the job, right? And the fact that the Canucks didn't get him, probably a little disappointing, but I don't think that should take away from the guy that Ryan Papaioannou is and the work he's done with the Brook Bandits. And you mentioned the Wheeling Nailers having, their most winning season in since 2014-15. I think it was the most wins they've recorded in a season, regular season wise, since 2003, 2004, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I mean, my question to you might be, when we had that synergy between Malhotra and Rick Tocchet, a lot of it was they played similar systems, right? Are you okay, Russell, with the Canucks playing a similar system to Rick Tocchet? Because really what Manny Malhotra said at the time is that his system was about 80% similar to Rick Tocchet.
Yes and no. Yeah, I think it's that 20% difference that I like about Manny Malhotra's style, because I think it creates a little bit more aggressiveness and a little bit more puck possession than you saw from Rick Tocchet. Whereas a lot of people, when they talk about Rick Tocchet, it's like he's forgotten that there's a neutral zone. So it's sometimes his neutral zone play and his neutral zone coaching, you just don't know, because it's the same. It's dump and chase, right? And there's a time and place for that. But I think Manny Malhotra emphasizes more than Rick Tocchet did is puck possession in all zones, essentially. His main thing is we need to have the puck on our sticks. And I like that. And I think that's what you're probably going to see in the difference from Rick Tocchet to Manny Malhotra moving into next year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's the main thing. You hit the nail on the head, is that Manny Malhotra is more puck possession than dump and chase, right? And I do think there's a part of me that Rick Tocchet wanted to be more puck possession. At least that's what he said publicly. But what the Canucks did on the ice never equated to that, right? And the Abbotsford Canucks played that way, honestly. Again, hard when you have an ECHL lineup to really do what you want to do. I think Manny Malhotra learned a lot last season too. So I do think that that extra 20%. I mean, and look, Rick Tocchet's teams were good at defending, right? Defend the home player of the ice. That's what Manny Malhotra does as well. And you shout out Jordan Smith on that one too. Let's see what he can do in Vancouver. But yeah, I think having synergy there is important, because Ryan Johnson knows from his years in being involved in the AHL, when players get called up, you want them to slide in more seamlessly, and to do that, you need two coaches who are on the same page. And the fact that Ryan Papaioannou, the fact that he's into that, I think it's a positive thing.
I have looked at so many different videos of him doing interviews, and there's not a single one where they introduce him. Everyone just calls him Ryan. I think everyone's avoiding saying his last name. So if anyone out there can find a video of him saying his own last name, send it over to me, and we'll finally know how to actually say it. So Harry Mahesh has been announced as well that he'll be back for Abby. So I think maybe good to have a little bit of continuity down there, to have him coming back and maybe getting even a bit of a bigger role now that he'll be one of the more senior assistant coaches down there. So Abby slowly rounding out. We'll probably get some more news moving forward about who ends up. They'll probably add maybe one or two guys down there. But yeah, I mean, and then Alexander Edler as well, the beast, coming back into I should call him the Eagle, coming back and getting into player development. Are we just going to have the whole 2011 team coming back to join this organization pretty quick here?
Yeah, you know what? I did write about that for Daily Hive a couple months back. Yeah, there's some guys out there who there's a possibility where they could rejoin, right? But yeah, Rafi Torres there in Rome. Let's bring them all back, man. Yeah, I mean the one guy who's really moved with the ladder kind of quietly is Tanner Glass with the New York Rangers, right? Director of player development there. I mean, the Canucks could probably use another guy in that role. I don't know if they'd poach Tanner Glass, but yeah, it's I don't see the whole 2011 team coming back, but we got enough of them here now, man.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, and I think a lot of what Alexander Edler will bring to coaching these kids is going to be very similar to what you got from the Sedins anyways, and just knowing how to prepare. He had a nice long career. He was able to change his game as his career went on. When his foot speed kind of dropped off, you saw him be able to figure out how to play differently. So if anything, that's the kind of thing he'll be bringing to these young guys, and that's very good for these players that we hope are going to eventually make it to the NHL and have long careers here as well. So we're looking forward to that.
The Eagle, man. Should he unretire and try to pass Hughes in the all-time points list for defensemen?
Hell yes.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Yep. Get him out there. Even if he has to use a walker, it'll be all right.
Hey, man, that left side's a little thin, man. That left side's a little thin. Jamie Alexia might be better on the right side. I don't know, man. Alex Edler, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they get as many injuries as they did in Abbotsford and Vancouver, he might just have to suit up.
Yeah, exactly. Might be between Guillaume Briseva and Alex Edler at some point this season.
So let's talk a bit about the budget, because we've heard lots of reports coming out about this hard budget that the Canucks have. And have you seen it? Do you think it's affected the way they've hired so far? And is Ryan Johnson's experience running the Utica Comets and essentially doing everything down there, and definitely having a budget down there, do you think that helps him navigate this world where apparently they're not allowed to spend as much as they need to?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I'm of two minds with the budget. I think you want your team to spend money the right way is the main thing, right? Like there were so many times, earlier in the Aquilini ownership tenure where they were spending to the cap every year and they weren't good, right? And we're complaining about them pissing money away. But I think you don't want to be seen as someone who's cheap, right? It's a bit of an insult to the fans, especially when you're out there raising ticket prices as well. Like that's not a good look. The fact that you could take on potentially other contracts in the free agent market. I'm looking at guys like Frank Vetrano. What if the Dallas Stars today? They signed Jason Robertson. They need to clear cap to get a guy like Sam Steele along with the draft pick, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to limit yourself because you're cheap. In terms of the hiring process, I think it might have affected a little bit. I haven't unearthed the whole Evan Gold story, but what we know is he wanted to really overhaul things and do things his way. And maybe that wasn't to the liking of the Canucks and their budget. But I also think that Ryan Johnson deserved the opportunity. So I don't fret about the budget in terms of the hiring as much, to be honest with you. The AHL coach with the UC Ahocas, I mean, that certainly plays into it as well. If the Canucks were offering him less than he was making the OHL, I mean, that's a bit of a joke. So I think it's not something that Canuck fans should lose sleep over, but it's something probably worth criticizing a little bit here, right? You don't want to be seen as someone who's cheap because it's an insult to your fans and your paying customers.
Do you think that budget changes once this team starts having more success, starts bringing in some revenues, and then within a couple years, hopefully, whenever that ends up being, playoff revenue starts coming in? Do you think they, at that point, because they have shown in the past, right? Like Mike Gillis pretty much spent whatever he wanted. He had a huge staff and spent where he needed to develop the players and be ready on all aspects when it comes to, all the staffing that they needed in Rogers Arena. Do you think once the revenue starts increasing, then the Aquilini's wallet can open up and they're willing to spend more money in the future?
Yeah, I want to believe it for sure. I think it's a convoluted situation, right? There's talks about one of the brothers being bought out in that situation too, which plays into it. Building a practice facility, that's not cheap either, right? The Canucks for probably about a decade have been known as having some of the worst ice in the league, and that's upgrades to the arena that need to be done. So they've shown elements of pinching in arguably the wrong areas for a long time. And they've been good in some of those seasons too. So I want to believe that, yeah, they're going to be good and they're just going to start spending, but I think it's more complicated than that, to be honest.
Yeah. I think one thing that did give me a bit of hope is the fact Carolina did end up winning the cup with an owner who has a history of being a penny pincher. So theoretically, yes, it can be done.
It can be done if you put the right guys in the right seats, right? And I think the Canucks, very early days, but I think they've shown signs of doing that so far.
Yeah. What's your over-under on the practice facility being officially announced before puck drop in September?
Oh, man. Yeah, I'll put the odds at like 20%. this song and dance has gone on for so long, Russell. I'm not expected to get done quickly. I know there was it a counselor from the city? There was some member in public service with the city of Vancouver who basically said the Canucks jumped the gun, or the reporting guy. Someone jumped the gun on the reporting, whether it was Rutherford or whether it was the reporting that was actually done. So that certainly gave me some pause. I mean, I think there was supposed to be a vote on it at City Hall in the fall. So yeah, in terms of an official announcement before September, especially during the summer when people are naturally taking a little bit easier, I'd be pretty surprised, to be honest with you. So I would not be slapping a few bucks on that bet.
So the schedule just dropped, full thing, open it up in Edmonton, back to back, bringing Edmonton back home too. Obviously, for anyone who's listening from outside of British Columbia, we have, as a province here in Canada, have decided to get rid of the time changes too. So that adds a whole nother wrinkle to the schedule, because now if they go down and play Seattle, they lose an hour once November rolls around, which is kind of weird. When you look at the schedule as a whole, is there anything that you like about what the NHL's done for the Canucks? Is there anything that you're worried about?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to hear Pat Byrne on Scarson Price, the Canucks' old sleep doctor, kind of rip into saying it was one of the worst schedules he's ever seen. I mean, that wasn't my initial thought when he saw it. I just think the Canucks get shafted every year, right? It's hard traveling out west to the East Coast, and it was that one trip in particular that Pat Byrne mentioned, their longest road trip of the season. It's a 7-gamer in January. They changed time zones 4 times. Now you throw the whole, we're not going out of daylight savings anymore. Now we're playing 9 home games at 8 p.m. We're playing 14 games overall at 8 p.m. Who knows if that might change based on what the states might do if they get rid of daylight savings time. So yeah, I mean, the Canucks get shafted every year. I don't think this year is much different, to be honest with you, but I care less because the whole goal is to see growth from the guys and get the best lottery odds possible. So, you know what? Hopefully one day it does change in the Canucks' favor. I think it's always going to be something that the Canucks struggle with. Maybe one day they'll bring in a sleep doctor and spend some money on that side of things to help the organization. Don't hold your breath. But for this year, it's again not something worth losing sleep over, because the whole goal is to be near the bottom of the standings and see growth along the way as you get there.
Is there a certain game highlighted on your calendar already?
Well, it's a little cliche to say the Quinn Hughes one. Kiefer Sherwood's return game? No, it's got to be the Quinn Hughes one, right? I mean, you're getting out of the way early in October. I'm just curious what the fan reaction is going to be. I mean, my guess is it's going to be similar to JT Miller. You get the video tribute, fans applaud, and then you just boo him every other time he touches the puck. And I think there's going to be a lot of booing because Quinn Hughes touches the puck a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think to me that's the big one on the calendar. I know the Maple Leafs on Halloween. I mean, that's spooky season, man. That's the center of the universe. Canucks playing them on Halloween. That'll have some juice to it as well.
Yeah, it's funny because I think it was a tradition for a long time. Philadelphia was usually in on New Year's Eve, but this year that's not happening. They're getting Philadelphia out of the way very early in the season. So Rick Talkwood back in town too, but that's kind of old news at this point. I guess the first game against Utah will be interesting to see too. Is there a tribute for Adam Foote on the first time they play Utah in Vancouver?
I mean, yeah, there probably is until we see the Canucks do things differently, right? There probably will be something. I don't know how warm of a reception Adam Foote's going to get, but Canuck fans should applaud him, man. He led us to 32nd overall, so give the man a round of applause, goddammit.
You think Garland gets booed, or?
I don't think so. I think most casual fans respected Connor Garland and his play. I think the whispers about him not being a great teammate, I think that's saved for more hardcore Canucks fans, and even that's not necessarily confirmed. So I think Connor Garland gets a warm reception, man. I mean, he was one of the more fun players to watch here. I mean, last season he wasn't good, but he was one of the more fun players to watch here in Vancouver over the last 5 years when, honestly, there was not a lot of good hockey.
Yeah, so biggest boo for Quinn Hughes, and the biggest cheer, what, Tyler Myers or Hoglander?
That's a good question. Man, I mean, my gut said Tyler Myers because, he was loyal to Vancouver, man. He was here for 7 years. Obviously, struggled on the hockey side at a lot of times, but he was loyal to Vancouver, man. And I think that means something. And honestly, Patrick Alvina gets to deserve some credit for that one. He got us a pretty good return from him. So
yep.
Nils Höglander, I think, is just more. Again, I think the hardcore fans will be cheering him. I think he gets a cheer, but uh, yeah, I can't see Höglander getting like that big of a cheer. It's probably Tyler Myers in that one, but that's a good. That's why they pay the big bucks for us. That was a good question.
Yeah. So when we're talking about this Canucks roster next year, who do you see as the Vancouver Canucks has an opportunity to take a big step next year?
Yeah, I mean, the one guy we just talked about on Locked On Canucks today was Liam Ogren. He's at that age entering now his draft plus 5 season where I think he's poised to do something more than he did last season. And, he had the change last season going from Minnesota. I know everyone looks at the 0 points in 18 games, but this guy was playing, 9 minutes on a fourth line with Ben Jones and Vinny Hinostroza, right? So, bit of a different situation in Vancouver. And look at the Canucks left wing depth chart. I mean, could this guy be the number one Canucks left wing by the end of the season? I don't think it's out of the question. It's him, Jake DeBrusk, Paul Cotter, and missing somebody else. But I mean, Drew O'Connor, that's the other one. So it's not like a murderer's row by any means. Liam Ogren could. I think right now, if Jake DeBrusk is still on the team, he probably starts on the second or third line. But if you trade Jake DeBrusk, all of a sudden he might be your first line left wing. He might be playing power play. And I just think that, he's got a similar profile to a guy like Ivan Barbashev potentially, right? Like a really good in-your-face forechecking winger who's got some soft hands around the net. Kyle brought that one up on our show today, Ivan Barbashev being kind of like the ceiling for him. I mentioned guys like Jake Neighbors, Simon Holmstrom, guys who had breakouts around the same ages. So yeah, I could see Liam Ogren being definitely a breakout player for the Canucks this season. I mean, I don't know if there's a ton of options. I mean, everyone's going to point to Z Boyam as well. Like, what's this guy going to do in a contract year? Tom Lander, but there could be some sophomore slumps for these guys too. So, and of course, the other big wild card is Philip Hedl, right? I mean, if Philip Hedl could ever stay healthy, this guy's got potential for sure. We like, late in the offseason last year, we're like, me and Kyle were starting to wonder, like, could this guy, if he stays healthy, be like a 70-point player? Like, he's got that skill set, to be honest with you. But I just don't know if anyone's got confidence in actually staying healthy.
Yeah, speaking of confidence and health, what's your confidence in Thatcher Demko's hips?
About as much confidence as I have of making the NHL at the age of 33, man.
Guess we can always dream.
What's that, bud?
We can always dream.
Yeah, we can always dream. I mean, all the best to Thatcher Demko. I do hope he finds. I hope he finds some consistency with his health, right? Much like Philip Hedl. I mean, this is a guy that cares about the Canucks, right? And like we said, that matters, right? You want guys in Vancouver who care about being a Vancouver Canuck, that want to be a Vancouver Canuck, that want to be a leader, that want to be an ambassador for the city. And I think Thatcher Demko wants to be all of those things. I do have a fear, call me negative, man. I got a fear back in my head that Thatcher Demko does come back and he starts looking elite again, and then all of a sudden maybe we're climbing up the standings when we shouldn't be, right? Like, that is a fear. So I do hope he comes back. I think you got to limit his pitch count no matter what, though, right? Like, even if he is healthy and playing well, like, you're not trying to win a bunch of games. Like, go see what you got in Tolopilo. Go see if you can, maybe parlay Demko or Lankin in a trade, right? So I don't got a ton of confidence in Demko being healthy, but there's certainly the chance that, as Demko said, they're hoping this solves all the problems, right? We know we've heard that one before, but yeah, I hope he finds his health, and if so, find a taker on the trade market for him. And the same will go for Kevin Lankin if he finds his game too.
I mean, that's the thing, and I've said this about Demko a couple times. He is, at his best, a goalie that could take this roster as it currently is with no changes and make them a bubble playoff team. And that's not saying that I have huge confidence in the roster. That's how much confidence I have Demko as just a game stealer, right? He can win games all on his own. So it could be a rude awakening for everyone who's looking to draft number 1 overall next year if Demko is able to stay healthy. So it could be a very interesting start to the year.
For sure. I also think you'd have to play like 60 games to get them there, and I just don't think this Canucks team is. I think they understand the assignment. I don't think they're going to do that.
So last question for you. For everyone who watches the show, they know that we got the new baby coming on the way. 2 weeks away, Beggsy. Got my first baby.
Let's go, man.
And as a dad of 2, I want to see if there's any advice you can give to me as a new dad.
I love that question because I remember on our old podcast network, Next Misconduct. Shout out to Nick Bondi. We call him the creator of Locked On Canucks. I think he was one of the first hosts on Locked On Canucks. He would ask all his guests on Power of the Towel parenting advice from me because I was having my first at the time, and there was some funny advice, man. Like J Pat would say that babies are durable. Blake Price said like sleep while you can. I thought that was good advice too. And my advice to you, just I mean, you know it, man. As already having one, just love your kid, man. Like there's gonna be times where you want to rip your hair out. There's gonna be times where you're saying like, why the hell did I do this? But just as long as you love your kid, man, and life's gonna work out. You know, your kid's gonna have a great life. So I think that's the best advice. Is just try to show your kid the world and just love your kid as much as possible, man.
Appreciate that. That's good. What do we got coming up for Trevor Beggs at the Daily Hive and Locked On Canucks for the rest of this summer?
Good question, man. I mean, these are the dog days, right? This is where you got to get creative, you know? Yeah, I think on the Locked On side, I definitely want to dive deeper into like the individual players. We took a look at Liam Ogren today. I'd like to look at Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, Braden Cooch, like some of these young guys that really mattered to the team. And, for me, one of the things I love to do is trying to find comparable players and how they progress and what that might tell us about these young players that we have right now in the Canucks. And like even I dove deep into Tom Willander for an article about like should the Canucks trade Tom Willander for Shane Wright, which I was ready for the hate mail on that one. I wasn't necessarily recommending it, but I wanted to see like who compares to Tom Willander, and like one guy that popped up to me, different stylistically, but kind of progressed at the same ages so far was Martin Fehervary of the Washington Capitals, who has turned into a really good second pairing defenseman. And honestly, I think that's a very realistic comp for Tom Willander in terms of the impact he might have. So I love doing stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to be looking to do this offseason as well. I think on Locked On Canucks, man, I'm going to invite you to the show. One thing I want to do on Locked On Canucks is do a bit of I'm not sure what we want to call it yet, but like maybe Friday Friends or like behind the blog kind of thing, behind the pod, and have some other voices on in the city come on our show, man. So you should definitely hop on Locked On Canucks at some point in the summer, man.
Would love to. Anything you want to say to the viewers and the listeners before I let you go, brother?
Subscribe to the channel, man. Look, I see you on YouTube with 2,399 subscribers. You're only one away from 2,400. Hell, 2 weeks, man. Let's get to 2,500, man. The quarter century mark, if that makes sense, for 10,000 subscribers. Let's get people subscribed to your channel. Nothing is perfect, man. You do great work. You're a fucking beauty. So yeah, man. Subscribe to Russ's show.
Got 15 Canucks doubleheaders this year. I put the schedule together. There is 15 occasions where I'm going to call the Abbotsford Canucks and the Vancouver Canucks on the same stream. So Woo! I will be calling you and Kyle up to be special guests on some of those because I'm definitely going to need the help.
Absolutely, man. I'm here for you anytime, man. I'll always enjoy the invite, and we're living the dream, man. There's nothing better than talking hockey.
All right, you guys have waited long enough. Here we are. Joined by none other than the Silver Fox himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Dustin Boydell. What's up, my dude?
What is happening, sir? How's your week been? Of course, another eventful week in Canucks news. Just keeping us just busy enough for the summer, hey?
You love to see it. You love to see it with just the small snippets of news. They said they were going to do things at an even pace. They're not going to rush anything. That's been really good for us Canucks content creators to have a little bit of something to talk about every week on the podcast. So it'll be a good episode today. A lot to go through. NHL schedules gotten out. Abby Canucks finally hire a new coach. We got a little bit of clarity on the assistants as well. Some new numbers for the Vancouver Canucks after a bunch of people bought the jerseys, so they'll be upset about that, but whatever. An old player.
Oh yes, all those Heedle jerseys out there.
Yeah, and then, as we always talk about,
I kid. Sorry.
They always like to put out news directly after we finish recording. So last week they did that. So Abby Canucks signing 5 players. So we'll talk about that, and just some league news too. Local boy Bedard signing a contract, Jason Robertson signing a 1-year deal, and a pretty hilarious salary arbitration that will get started tomorrow, which is Thursday, July the 23rd. For Columbus Jackets goaltender Jet Greaves. So we'll talk about that. So lots to go through, but I thought we'd start off with some of the best news that we got was the schedule coming out, so we know when all the streams are going to be happening next year.
Yes, sir. I mean, obviously a different year for the Canucks, given that, you know, the back-to-backs are going to be tight, compressed schedule, 84 games, but also the wrinkle that they're the only West Coast team that's playing in their own time zone come November, what is it, November 10th or so, around there, when daylight savings time ends for literally everyone else in this country and in the United States, except for a couple of spots where they don't recognize it. It's pretty rare. But yeah, so it's going to be strange having some 8 p.m. game starts, having some 3 p.m. game starts when we're 4 hours ahead, when we fall back, when everyone else falls back an hour and gains an extra hour. I mean, we'll be 4 hours ahead. So we'll be watching Toronto games at 3:00 if they do have an East Coast game. But from what we saw in the schedule, it looks like the NHL tried to factor that in by having their East Coast road trips prior to the time change and after the next time change. Because you and I talked about it offline, the U.S. has basically passed legislation to stop doing daylight savings time as well, because it's kind of an archaic thing. It was like for farmers to get more time to harvest their crops and blah, blah, blah. But realistically now, in the modern era, we can just enjoy the extra hour of sun and never go back to the lost hour. It's kind of a foolish practice at this point. And once everyone's back on the same time zones and there's none of this wrinkle next season, we'll be back to 7:00 starts and everything will be hunky dory.
Yeah, it seems like the whole West Coast is on board, all the way from Saskatchewan, because Saskatchewan aren't ahead of the curve in many things, but since 1966, Saskatchewan has not done any time changes. Alberta is now on board too, so they'll be not changing again as of the one in the spring, I believe. And then the Yukon also does not change their time zone. So yeah, the U.S. Congress has passed legislation, so now it just has to go through the Senate. But we all know American politics can be a little funny, so who knows if it makes it through. But it's also interesting.
It depends on the situation, though. If it involves money, then it can be funny. But this is something that's just kind of a convenience for literally everybody, businesses, humans. So hopefully, it's one of those easy slam dunks for Congress.
Well, I mean, Arizona doesn't do a time change either. They're one of the few states who doesn't. I discovered that last year when we had Eddie Lack on the show. It was something like, oh, wait, we had a time change and you didn't. And Eddie Lack was such a great human being in that situation where he made it work, regardless of the fact that neither one of us thought about the fact that he didn't time change and I did. And suddenly it was an hour off of what we initially decided to meet and chat. So, but Eddie Lack, obviously a great human being, so he made it work.
Yep.
It's interesting. You said, so Sunday, October the 4th is one of the games. Vancouver will be playing in New York, and that is going to be a 3 p.m. game because that's their initial road trip. They also play in November at 3 p.m. against the Boston Bruins, and that is also on the road. But one thing I haven't heard anyone talking about is the fact that it does actually help in some cases. For example, if you're playing in Minnesota, suddenly you're playing at 6 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. So it's only a 1 hour difference instead of a 2 hour difference, which I feel is going to be good. And this is actually good for my schedule as well. So maybe I'm just biased on that. But yeah, anytime they're playing the central time zone, right? You're playing against Colorado in Colorado. You're playing against any of those teams. You're going to see a bunch of 6 o'clock games that we would have normally seen as 5 o'clock games. So even playing in Alberta, you're going to see some 6 o'clock games instead of 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever it is. But it is interesting, like we talked about, there is going to be 9 home games for the Canucks playing at Rogers Arena. There are going to be 8 p.m. games. Those are mostly on Saturday nights. And before everyone gets too bent out of shape about that, that is the result of playing in line with the rest of the country. Alberta has gotten the short end of the stick for that. And I'm not going to say anything really too nice about Calgary or Edmonton because they are arch rivals, but they have been forced to play 8 p.m. games for years and years and years and years. So it is alignment now for the Canucks to have to experience that. Most of those, like I said, are going to be on Saturday nights, so it's not as big of a deal for people who have to stay up a bit late. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 on like a Wednesday or something like that, but that's not too crazy. And they're going to be playing 4 away games at 8 p.m., and all of those games are playing in Alberta too. So not too much of a difference there. The other thing I saw on the schedule, which I really liked, 9 back-to-backs, which does seem like a lot, but it's actually down by 5. They had 14 in the 25-26 schedule, so they're down 5 back-to-backs. It is essentially very similar to the schedule last year where they're playing every other day. And that's what it comes down to. 84 games, hard to pack it in, but they are getting started earlier. For anyone who didn't see, first game is on September the 29th, and then it's essentially every other day all the way through until April. So get ready, buckle up. There's going to be a lot of hockey to watch. And putting together my schedule, Dustin, was a headache and a half. Let me tell you, because the NHL, I don't know why they put out the schedule before compensating for the fact that BC has their own time zone, because I had to go through and manually switch it to the mountain time zone after the whole switch and then switch it back. And then on top of that, the AHL half fixed it. So the first part of the season they had fixed it, and then the last half they didn't fix it. So then I was going into all these things about time zones and how they converted into each other. And there was like MDT and PST and MST and all this. And it hurt my brain so much. But I think I have it sorted. But we will have to go through and make sure I keep on updating my own schedule to keep everything straight. But the good news for anyone who's listening to this and anyone tunes in for the live streams that we do, we are live during every single Vancouver Canucks game. And we are live during as many Abbotsford Canucks games as we can do, including 15 Canucks doubleheaders. So we will be covering both the Vancouver Canucks and the Abbotsford Canucks in one stream 15 times next year. And then on top of that, I've squeezed out, I think, 18 other occasions where we will have bonus coverage of the Abbotsford Canucks. So when you look at the Abbey Canucks, who play a 72-game schedule, we are going to be covering at least half of that, if not a little bit more, back to back. It's going to be a lot of fun. So tons of Canucks hockey coming up.
And yeah, I mean, we are your place for the entire organization content. I mean, I don't think there's anyone else out there that has the dedication that you do, Russ, to creating that schedule, not only for yourself, but sending it out to me and making sure that we are getting the content out to our fans, and hopefully we can keep growing those numbers. People realize how hard you're working and how passionate we are about doing this and how seriously we do take it, even though we're just a couple of Russian cashew eaters smoking our ciggies in our basements. But I really appreciate what you do and the effort you put in, and I hope our followers understand that this started as a hobby, and the time that you're dedicating to it, I mean, it's now a side career. So, you know, we wouldn't be here without them, and we wouldn't be as passionate as we are without them. But I hope they do understand that that it's a lot of work and a lot of dedication. So I just want to make sure that you get your recognition, because you don't get it often enough. You're so kind with your intros to guests and your respect and the way you carry yourself. And I just hope you understand that I am proud to be your co-host. I am proud to be your friend. And I just can't wait for what this season holds, because every year it seems like we find a way to grow more. And I just want you to know you're very appreciated, sir. So anyways,
right back at you, Silver Fox. Oh my God. Woo, go check out his Twitch page and you're going to see how I'm feeling about this. Hey, Paragolfer Pro on Twitch. He's got a little song that explains exactly how I feel. Let's dive into a couple of the dates, because obviously a huge turnover on the Canucks. Bunch of players coming back to play in Vancouver for the first time since leaving. Some left under nefarious circumstances. Some left just because they signed somewhere else this summer. But I wanted to get your thoughts. Tyler Myers, Hoglander both coming back in December. Tyler Myers December 5th. Hoglander's coming back. Or Hoglander, I always say Hoglander. December 10th. Who gets the bigger cheer between those two guys?
Ooh, I think Myers gets a really good ovation. I think the effort that he put in to stay here as a veteran and he kind of did find his game under Tocchet. Last year struggled because Foot's coaching was nuts, and this like man-on-man D that doesn't work with 6'7" guys. They need to play zone. They can't play man-on-man. You've seen Sapster break it down and show the difference between man-on-man and zone with his Manny Malhotra coaching blog. If I know we're in the middle of talking about these guys, but if you guys haven't read that and you want to know what to expect from Manny Malhotra and the differences and why Russ and I were so frustrated watching the two different styles of play and hearing from management that, the structure is organization wide. And it's like, well, no, Manny's got a great structure system that was similar to Tocchet's, but Foot is a psychopath. So when it comes to being a head coach, so good for him for being in Utah. They can have him. But yeah, I think Hoglander, obviously they'll cheer for Hoglander, but I think Myers is more of a veteran, has developed more of a career here, has the Chaos Giraffe nickname, blew up Duncan Keith in the corner that one time, and everyone remembers that big hit. So there's memorable moments with Tyler Myers. Hoglander, what people are going to remember are the injuries, the struggle to stay consistent in the lineup. Yes, he got the 20-goal season, but there's always the but with him, right? Couldn't crack the lineup for two different coaches, struggled with injuries. The change of scenery almost felt inevitable. One of the guys without any no-trade protection, so off he goes to Nashville. But it'll be exciting to see those two guys back. It's the one on October 24th, is it? That I'm 20th? 20, something like that. 25th. That's the one that I'm looking forward to. That'll be a loud ovation. And that'll be a loud ovation. And I think probably the loudest booing we've ever heard for a former captain of the Vancouver Canucks. Just after everything that's come out post Hughes, the way he held the organization hostage, the way we're seeing it with other American-born players and wanting to go back from Canada, also to go play with their brothers and things. I mean, we heard Steve Stais, in not so short of words, say there was only one place he wanted to go when it came to Brady Tkachuk, and we heard that song and dance, here, but unfortunately, or fortunately for us, someone else came to the table with a huge offer that we couldn't refuse. So
GM of the year.
Thank you, Bill. Absolutely. I agree, because he helped us. He helped us vault our rebuild with four NHL prospects and three already playing in the league. So one who was overshadowed by playing too far down the lineup in Liam Ogren and not getting the ice time, like that. As good as Bouillon is and as talented as Rossi when fully healthy, like we saw what Rossi was the last 10 games or so when he was fully healthy finally. And he admitted he should have stayed off the knee a little longer, but he wanted to come in, help a new team and prove himself. So came back a little early. When he comes back fully healthy, I think he's going to be a really exciting player to watch. Bouillon's going to, his development's going to progress exponentially with Jordan Smith and Manny Malhotra in training camp. I mean, he's going to look like a totally different player when the season starts than what we saw at the end of last year. And I'm just,
So you're thinking
What we're talking about?
I'm thinking October 31st, Bluger returns. It's going to be a polite golf clap.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
just a little golf clap. But yeah, no. Thank you, Bill Garden. That's what I was getting.
Yeah. Klimovich returns in November. Never played a game in Vancouver. Do you think he's even in the lineup for Philadelphia when he returns? Or is he going to try and snuck through waivers?
I don't know, man. Like they need a winger that can shoot. So maybe they find a way to utilize him, but he couldn't crack the lineup here under Tocchet. But maybe Tocchet saw something in him back then at training camp and was okay with the acquisition, because I mean, normally when you go out and get a guy like that, you discuss it with the coach a bit, especially someone who's had experience with a player. So maybe he gets a shot over there, or maybe he just ends up going overseas. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see if Klimovich is coming back in a Flyers sweater.
If
but
he's in the lineup,
I think the
I will be
chances are
shocked.
pretty slim.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It would have to take a miracle for him to crack the Tocchet lineup over there.
Think there's a good chance Keeper Sherwood gets his name chanted when he comes back?
Yeah, I mean, he left the right way. People appreciate the hell out of him and what he gave, and understood why he needed to be traded as much as we wanted him to stay. Just didn't fit the rebuild model. Over the age of 30, wanted some term. Yeah, I mean, he's going to get a good cheer, but that will quickly evaporate if he starts throwing his weight around, and then people will be unhappy just as fast as they were happy to see him back.
Yeah, December will be the busiest month for returning players. Myers, Hoglander, Sherwood, Douglas on the 5th, the 10th, the 19th, and the 30th. And then on the 21st, the Utah Mammoth are in town. So that'll be Adam Foote's return. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they give him a tribute because he was here as an assistant for a while as well. But I think he may get cashews thrown at him or something like that. We'll have to wait and see. And then the last one, well, I guess Marcus
from Caleb
Pettersson.
Malholtra. Thank you, Adam Foote.
Yeah.
I said from Caleb Malholtra. Thank you, Adam Foote.
Yeah, tank commander. Yeah, maybe we just all wear tanks that night. Marcus Pettersson's in November, so we like to see that because he was obviously a guy who wanted to be a part of this team, but when the offer came for a first round pick coming back, there was no doubt they were going to take that one. So he'll probably, I'd say, polite golf clap for Marcus Pettersson. Connor Garland, I think, is probably the most polarized one here, where I don't know how people are going to react, because yeah, there was a lot of good that he did. He was a feisty little guy. We love the way he threw down and beat the shit out of Trevor Zegras, but he also kind of gave up on this team as well, because we saw that.
He did mail it in for a while there.
Yeah.
You could see it. He lost a step, had no heart, and it felt like the time to move him was coming. When Quinn left, you could see that basically the spark was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So when something like that happens, it's difficult because there's a constant reminder of your best friend. You named your son after him. He's the godfather of your son. That stings, right? When you lose a friend that's basically a brother. I can understand the emotional side of it, but at the same time, you're a pro. You need to still come to work every day. And so that part lost some respect notches for me with Connor Garland because he plays so hard, because I know what he brought when he was committed and how easily he just kind of gave up was telling of character. And for me, that's tough.
I think the biggest ovation you're going to see for a new Canuck will be March the 6th. It's going to be Brendan Gallagher's return to Montreal. So that should be one you mark on your calendars as well, because that'll be his first game playing for a different team in the Bell Center. So that should be a fun one to watch, because I would not be surprised to see
That'll be
a
cry
long
one.
ovation,
That'll be a cry.
tears.
Yeah.
100%. So
yeah,
those are the kind of dates that you should be looking forward to on this calendar year. Lots going on, so it should be a lot of fun. Former players,
That'll
new
be a
players.
long montage
Yeah.
of highlight moments. Not just goals, just
Him
Brendan
running into
Gallagher being a
goalies.
rat, running goalies, being a rat in the corners, that toothless grin and laugh, and the intensity and energy that he brings to every game. That'll be a good one, and definitely the emotions will be flying in that one.
Yeah. A reminder to everyone too, we did the prospect showcase last year, the Young Stars tournament that was held up in Penticton for many years with multiple teams had been canceled. They moved to a prospect showcase, which ended up being 2 games against the Seattle Kraken's prospect pool. This year is being hosted by Abbotsford. And as I think I mentioned last week, I think it'll probably be around that September 12th mark. You got the preseason starting on Saturday, September the 19th. So I would anticipate you're probably going to see the prospect showcase the week before, or maybe even it should be around the 12th. So once that comes out, we will get you up to date. But yeah, it looks like both of those games are going to be held in Abbotsford.
Yes.
Ryan Papaioannou, the
Hey,
newest.
not bad. I mean, I think we haven't heard anyone officially announce how to pronounce his last name. But yeah, that was a good. That's what I saw as it phonetically explained online. But I would appreciate if the new head coach of the Abbotsford Canucks, Mr. Ryan Papaioannou, would confirm or deny if we have got the pronunciation of his name correct. It'd be really nice. But some big news. Finally getting that Abbotsford coach in place. A lot of success as a junior hockey coach, highly respected individual. And we saw a friend of the show, Ben Lipka, put out an interview with him yesterday. Some great comments from the new coach in that interview. One of the comments that stood out most to me was how he talked about he needs to learn Manny's system so that the organization can be aligned correctly for the prospects to have the most success to seamlessly enter the NHL lineup, which is something you don't hear often from a head coach that brings his own philosophies and his own head coaching style. However, when you hear what sold him on coming to Abbotsford was how aligned his beliefs and strategies and importance of culture are. He said, sitting down with Ryan Johnson, Rich Seeley, and the Sedins and talking about the job and interviewing, what they said to him was that we want to build from culture as the foundation, and everything else will work itself out from there. If you have a good culture, then you create a good atmosphere, whether you're winning or losing. As long as the atmosphere is good and the goal is the same, the wins will come, the goals will come, everything will fall into place, but you have to earn it. You have to work for it. And there has been this weird generation gap of NHLers that don't want to work for it, right? We've seen these holdouts of RFAs. We'll talk about a couple of RFAs kind of asking for strange numbers or going to be getting strange numbers because of the market issues, right? Like it all started way back when William Nylander held out on Toronto and Kyle Dubas bent to a guy who had proven nothing and ended up giving crazy money to a young guy instead of bridge contracting him and seeing what he could prove and allowing him to earn it. And so now we're getting back to that culture of earning it. And we have these rumors of salary and blah, blah, blah. And like, oh, we lost out on a Hokus because of the salary offered was less than his OHL contract. And that's never been confirmed or denied or whatever. It's been from sources, quote unquote. It's another one of those the local media needs daily stories because they nothing's coming from the team. There's no leaks. But I really like this hire. Do you want to talk a bit, Russ, from your side about his success as a junior coach with the Brooks Bandits?
5 Alberta Junior Hockey League titles, 3 Centennial Cup crowns, a Western Canadian Cup championship, and 1 BCHL title. And then on top of that, last year he did his first pro coaching job with Wheeling Nailers down there in Virginia. I think it's West Virginia. And it is the ECHL affiliate for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And they had their most successful year since 2015. They made it to the 3rd round of their playoffs. I've watched a bunch of different interviews he's done. He's been on a couple different podcasts. He's been on a couple different blogs. A lot of the things he talks about was the adjustments moving from a junior team to a professional team, in that he wanted to spend so much time on the ice with his junior teams, realized with his professional teams that was not something that was feasible for adults who have families and responsibilities outside of the rink. So I think that was a huge thing for me, was hearing how he adjusted to the ECHL coaching job and figuring out how to handle pros rather than having junior players. But the way he described it, the interview, one of them I was listening to, he talked about the fact that at one point they had 11 forwards and 4 defensemen available to them. And he was responsible to go out and find guys for a game 3 days away from that, right? So very similar to what he will experience in the AHL. That's one thing you talk about too, obviously. All of a sudden, boom, injuries in Pittsburgh, injuries in Scranton, which is where they have their AHL team. And bam, you have to have a bunch of different players ready to go. So he knows how to deal with tough situations. He understands how that looks when you're constantly having to change your lineup. He describes it very similar to the way that Manny Malhotra talks about in the AHL. It's like, things are going really well. Oh, my 3 best players just got called up, right? So that's the kind of thing he talks about. And another thing I saw him constantly talking about, which I found very interesting, was talking about how to teach players deception, which is such a huge thing because hockey's so much about reads, knowing what people are going to do before they do it. And he talked about how difficult it is to teach players the art of deception. And one thing he mentioned was it's hard to run a perfect practice. Every coach wants to run a perfect practice, tape to tape, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But when you're teaching deception, it's all about looking in the wrong place, not showing what you're going to do. And that can cause your ability to have a clean practice go down. And he talks about the fact that he's had to teach himself to accept that as part of the process. He can't expect it to be a perfect practice and have these guys trying to, if you want me to do a tape-to-tape pass while looking exactly where I'm going to put the puck every single time, many, many players, even the ECHL level, are going to do that every single time. But if they're not looking as an art of deception, it's going to change the way and the ability for them to do it. But you have to hammer that into them. So that's something very interesting. So, and just talking about the development, like he's had over 100 players go and play in the NCAA, right? So he was taking people out of the junior league that is below the CHL and having them move into the NCAA, which was his whole job. He got them prepared for that. And the other thing I really loved about him, and saw it in Ben Lipka's article, and I saw in a couple different blogs that I watched or podcasts that I watched, he talked about the fact that he never actually wanted to leave his team in Brooks. The only reason he did it was because he saw the writings on the wall. The NCAA rules changed, and that is going to completely alter the way that hockey and junior hockey in Canada is as a development league. So he saw, okay, this is the time. I need to look for something else. So that's where he made the step into the ECHL Wheeling Nailers organization. And very quickly, like we said, he had a 46-20-6 record, their best record. Actually, I said it was since 2015. It was their best record since 2003, and it's the first time they made it to the 3rd round of playoffs since 2003, 2004 was the best record. 2015-16 was the last time they made it to the 3rd round. So he stepped in and immediately under some very difficult circumstances, like I said, missing tons of players, still managed to have a very solid team that had good culture. And even when they're at their lowest, right, he talked about how injury they were. They'd lost 4 games in a row. He'd never lost 4 games in a row in his entire coaching career. It was a 1-0 loss, an overtime loss, a shootout loss, and a 2-1 loss. So they were in all the games. And even though things weren't going as they wanted to, the team still showed up. Their hard work was still there, and there were still good attitudes on the bench. And that's exactly what we want to see for a guy who's going to be responsible for developing the prospects down at Abbotsford. So despite all the talk of budget and all this kind of stuff, I think this guy is going to do a very good job for the Abbotsford Canucks, and I am very excited to see what he can pull off. And the other aspect, Harry Mahesh has been confirmed that he will be returning, so there is a little bit of continuity there down in Abbotsford, so we love to see that. And I assume Harry Mahesh might get a little bit of a bigger role on the bench too, since he'll be in his 3rd season with the Abbotsford Canucks down there in the AHL.
Yeah, and just from everything you talked about and the interviews I watched, he seems like a very philosophical man, and life philosophies in the sense of, how do you learn in life? You learn from your mistakes, and development in hockey is the same. You need to develop through mistakes. You can't punish mistakes, because that's how you learn to not make them again, is by, okay, you did this, now go out there on this next shift and don't do that thing that you just did. That's how you learn. It's not, oh, sit down there and think about what you did. That's old fossil style hockey. And, there's a lot of analysts that enjoy it when players get benched. And it's like, well, there's a time and a place to bench a player, but if it's for a simple defensive mistake and it's one and they're a young player, it can send the wrong message. And that's not how you connect with young prospects. And that's why I like this new wave of coaching, this new philosophy, this new culture. Like you brought up, the NCAA changing things. And I mean, until the CHL allows image and likeness contracts like the NCAA, we're going to lose all the best juniors, because the NCAA has so much cash, it's not even funny. Had those rules never changed, Gavin McKenna this year has 200 points in the WHL for the Medicine Hat Tigers, and the Ruck Twins aren't even talked about because they're not getting any ice time. Like, that's the world we live in now, right? It has changed, and you're going to get certain players making decisions for the wrong reasons. And I think Ryan saw that. So Papaioannou wanted to make the switch to the professional coaching. But I think one thing that's going to bring amazing results in Abbotsford is making the jump from junior to the ECHL. And for any Letterkenny or Shoresy fans out there, the ECHL is essentially senior AAA whale shit hockey. It's all the guys that didn't quite make it in the draft, aged out a junior, but are still pretty freaking talented. So they need somewhere to play and get that competitive energy out. And that's essentially the East Coast Hockey League. But occasionally you find a guy who slips through the cracks and has a work ethic that just is different than everybody else. And sometimes their name is Alexander Burrows, and you get lucky through the ECHL, and coaches, you can get lucky with coaches through that development as well. And so to come to the AHL, where it's basically a blend of juniors and those guys that have aged out of either making the jump to the NHL, or the NHL doesn't have a spot for them anymore, that's the mix in the AHL. And to have both worlds of experience that he has from Brooks and from the Wheeling Nailers, he talks about streamlining the process for veteran players, because they don't need to do the fundamentals the way the young players do. And it's all about the details and the finer things. And now in the AHL level, you're going to have to coach the young prospects to learn more of the fundamentals and the structure. And the older guys, it's just staying tight, eating right, working out regularly, going over video, one thing he said, like, his philosophy when recruiting for juniors, if you don't like sitting in the video room and going over strategy, this isn't the place for you. And so I'm very excited from everything I've researched, from everything I've heard. Seems like he's exactly the type of person that Ryan Johnson, the Sedins, and Manny Malhotra will flourish with. Our prospects will be ready when coming up to the NHL. If they have to fill in for injury, they won't look so bloody lost. Playing a great structure, then coming into a shit one like we saw last year, where everyone was like, "Oh, our prospects are terrible. They're so bad. What's going on here? No wonder Abbotsford is in last place," and blah blah blah. Right? We heard that all year from scoreboard watchers online. We heard comments even in our own chat about, how can you guys want Manny as our coach? They're in last place and blah blah blah. So just all good things, good decisions being made week after week by Ryan Johnson and the Sedins, and just starting to get all the ducks in a row. Couple more roster moves, and then I think we're probably pretty happy.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about him, the new coach, Papaioannou, is that he's doing his first AHL coaching job. And then one thing I always joke about with running a restaurant is I love hiring people into a hosting position that are like 15, 16 years old, because I don't have to worry about them jumping to become a server in the next year, right? I imagine that Ryan Papaioannou can be the Abbotsford head coach for multiple years, right? Even if he ends up taking them all the way to a Calder Cup final, right? Like that, maybe that's the one thing that can change it. But with Manny Malhotra, I anticipate he's going to be the head coach for the Vancouver Canucks for a long time. I'm glad that they found some. Yes, I'm glad we found someone to coach in Abbotsford that I feel like can spend some time down there to develop his craft as a professional head coach even more. 3-4 years. That way we don't have to do this whole song and dance again where we're looking for another new coach next year, and you can get some consistency so they're being developed under the same coach for multiple years. So that's the other thing I do like about that. And then a little bit more news from Abbotsford, which we joke about every time we finish recording the podcast. They drop more information on us, and this literally dropped, I think, while we were still recording last week. Abbotsford Canucks general manager Richard Seeley announced that the club had signed forwards Quinn Emerson, Ryan St. Louis, Tim Rigo, Gavin White, and goaltender Mitchell Weeks. Tim Rigo and Gavin White are defensemen, and Mitchell Weeks is a goaltender. So 5 players being added. They're all signed to AHL contracts, which means they are eligible to be sent down to the ECHL as well. So it should be interesting to see. You recognize the name, Ryan St. Louis. This is Martin St. Louis' kid. So he is coming out of Brown's University. He was a college free agent, didn't get drafted. Emerson as well was in the NCAA last year. He is 25. He is being drafted, wasn't drafted. So he is coming into the organization out of Bowling Green State University. Rigo is 25. He's been a professional for about 2 seasons. He played for the Ontario Reign. So there's the Richard Seeley connection there, and their ECHL affiliate in the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. And then White, the other defenseman, 23 years old. He's been in the AHL for a little bit. He played in Texas with the Texas Stars and with the Calgary Wranglers. So another guy that Richard Seeley probably saw on a very regular basis. And then Weeks, the goaltender, spent past 4 seasons in the Chicago Blackhawks organization, appearing in 51 games with the AHL Rockford Hogs and 99 ECHL games. He's 6'3", 187 pounds. Numbers aren't great, but looks like he will probably be an ECHL guy because he spent some time in the Wheeling Nailers organization back in 2022. So that was before, obviously, Ryan got there. But nevertheless, he is most likely to be that. What would he end up being? So we got 3, 4, 5. So he'll probably be the 6th goaltender in this Canucks organization behind Demko, Lankinen, Tolopilo, Aku Koskanvoa, and Ty Young. So he will most likely, barring a whole bunch of injuries, knock on wood, be spending most of his season down there in the ECHL, wherever they end up picking their affiliate. Because as we mentioned last week, the affiliation with Kalamazoo is over, and we don't know if they're going to renew that. So,
yeah,
but
we await news on that now that the Abbotsford coaching has the head coach has been sorted. They just need to get 2 or 3 assistants dialed in, and then they can then move on to the ECHL stuff. Just ticking one step at a time. And that's all Johnson wanted to do was, okay, I got to get stuff checked off the list. You don't want to have 7 different things going on at once when it's your first crack at the job, because that's how you make mistakes. You overlook a detail or don't see something with someone that you should have had you been focused solely on that task. So I really like the way he's going about business. I expect us to have an ECHL announcement before the end of this month, because once August hits, training is starting. Everyone's kind of starting to slowly roll back into town because these guys really only get a month off now. They got to start getting back into town, get their accommodations sorted, because once September hits, it's like boom, training camp, baby. Training camp, preseason, regular season, let's go. September 29th, right? Like we're starting regular season NHL hockey in September, which is crazy.
yeah.
But yeah, some tidy work here, just filling out the AHL roster. We knew there were going to be some holes, losing Klimovich, Oman, just guys that kind of aged out of their time in Abbotsford, were restricted free agents and not guys that you want to re-sign, because there's no real point in wasting cap space on those guys, wasting roster space when they're not going to have a chance or a sniff at the NHL. Not to say any of these guys will, but one guy I'm curious about is St. Louis. Yes, he's small like his dad. He's 5'10", 181 pounds, but he was in that 23 age, same with White, that COVID era. And instead of getting in the draft, no one really wanted small guys. There wasn't like a combine. They didn't have the same kind of junior year. So instead of going back into the draft, he just went and got a college education because he comes from a smart family. Like his dad is a very smart, well-spoken guy. Anytime St. Louis talks, like we appreciate his coaching culture that he brought to Montreal. He's always been well respected throughout the league, even as a player. So, I mean, to go get your college education and then sign a professional contract, I mean, I'm okay with that. And we're going to see that with Aiden Celebrini, who's going to finish out his final year in NCAA. And then we're going to see him jump to Abbotsford, and everyone's going to be like, oh, we do have a defensive prospect, a defensive defenseman prospect. We just haven't seen him play much because he's been over in Boston getting an education as a fallback plan in case he doesn't actually make the NHL, which is just smart life choices, right? Like if you're one of those bubble guys that may or may not make it, you have the work ethic to make it, but you just might not ever get that chance depending on, organizational depth. You need a backup plan. Not everyone can be a realtor after they retire. There's only so many houses to sell. So to have something, to have some sort of major in your back pocket is really important if you're a young guy and you're not sure if sports are going to pan out for you, because you're just one injury away from never making it. So always remember that, kids, our kid listeners out there. You always got to have a plan B if you want to go into sports, because it's a young retirement age for most professional sports, and it doesn't always love you back. So just make sure that you get an education, because it is always important. And when you have that education, it's something that no one can ever take away from you.
Stay in school, kids.
Stay in school. And quickly, before we move past the Abbotsford Canucks, I think we talked about the budget thing, and everyone kind of blamed that on a Hokus passing on us. But I think given his career path and his choice to take the Colorado Eagles job is telling that he wants a quicker path to the NHL. Because if Jared Bednar doesn't get it done this year with Colorado, I don't see him coming back next year. Right? So if there might be some hot seat stuff there. So it's just a smart career choice from from a Hokus to go there from the OHL, and yeah, it sucks, and we can call budget stuff. I mean, there's rumors coming out this morning. Patrick Johnson, one of our favorite rumor guys who likes to light fires when there's nothing going on, says that the owners want to cut another $20 million from player payroll, which would put us at $39 million in cap space. For why? Like, prove it. Like, get a report from Aquilini that he wants to get $20 million in cap space. How are you going to do that? Trade PD, DeBrusque, and Besser? There you go. There's your $20 million in cap space. You now have no team. So I'll believe it when I see it. But all these rumors, same with the Pettersson rumors. It's like, oh, where there's smoke, there's fire. It's like, no. When there's smoke from Ryan Johnson and the Sedins, then I'll care, because they seem to have tightened things up pretty damn well. We're not hearing really much of anything until right before it's announced.
Yeah, the way we like it, even if it is fun sometimes. Alexander Edler coming in, joining the player development department, so he is taking one of the roles that was left vacant when the Sedins got their promotion to president of hockey operations.
Another rookie, another young coach.
Yeah.
Learning how to coach? No way. Sorry. Just had to act like all the Canucks fans for a second.
Yeah. Alexander Edler, long career, did a lot of different things for this team, was always a hard worker, was always in good shape, was a consummate professional. At the end of the day, takes on the role of player development, which is all about making sure that these prospects end up developing properly and getting to their fullest potential. I like the hire. What about you?
I love it. And here's the thing is, I dogged on Alex Edler a bit throughout his career. However, he was thrust into a role he was never built to fill. For our young Canucks fans who don't know who Luc Bourdon is, he was a defensive prospect that would have been a 6'2" offensive defenseman with a shot that would have quarterbacked the power play. And he unfortunately lost his life in a motorcycle accident in a summer off-season, right before he was supposed to kind of make that push to be pushing for a spot on the NHL roster. That then thrust Alex Edler into them wanting to develop him into more of an offensive role when he should have been, for his career, probably a number 3 guy, but ended up being forced to kind of be a number 1 guy and did a good job for the most part. But I think it was just too much for him at times in certain situations. And the offense was never a big part of his game. He could never really provide that. He didn't have a super accurate shot. It was a hard shot, but he missed the net a lot. Like a lot. We heard the board slap a lot when Edler was playing. But the absolute definition of a professional. Never heard him complain. Always talked to media if he was required to. Quiet guy, not required to a lot. But when he did, well-spoken, smart, polite, great with the fans, great with the community. The exact culture we're trying to bring back is that 2011 culture we had. Right before the Benning era was the best the Canucks ever were. Was like 07 to 2012, and then 2012 we won't talk about after 2012 because that's when everything started burning down. But I think this is where you start if you want to get into coaching and helping develop. It's where Yogi was, and now he's an assistant coach elsewhere. It's where Jason Krug was. He's now an assistant coach with us. So, it's a great spot for a guy to teach our young players how to be a professional, how to practice properly. And I just think it's a good role. And it's another guy who's passionate about the organization, has dedication to the crest on the front of the sweater, and to all his teammates, with throughout the organization. So yeah, great hire.
Connor Bedard, local boy, finally signs. Nobody offer sheeted him. 5 years, $15 million per year, including a $9.8 million signing bonus each year of the 5-year contract. So he is getting the bag. He is getting paid. He's not getting quite Carlson money, but he did sign 5 years. And the last year of his contract includes a full no movement clause, which means after this contract is up, if he doesn't extend, it will be free agency, unrestricted for Connor Bedard, allowing him to just come home and join the team that will be at the end of its rebuild, ready and poised to win multiple Stanley Cups in a row. So we love to see this, which is pretty much as best case scenario as we can with the Vancouver Canucks, hoping that Bedard comes home, because again, this could line up with Celebrini's current contract status too. So
I'd love I'd love to think Celebrini is coming home, but that's never happening. Maybe when he's like 35. But right now, with what San Jose is building, I mean, he's gonna have way too much fun playing with Ivar and Will Smith and Chernisov down there. I mean, the Canucks wanted Chernisov in the Sherwood trade apparently, and I'm not surprised San Jose said no, because that kid's a tank.
Yep.
But yeah, Connor Bedard's contract, not only does it walk him to free agency, but what year did I tell you the Canucks are going to win a Stanley Cup? 29, 2030.
Yeah.
There's no trade protection in the year 29-30 for Connor Bedard. There's no trade protection for the first 4 years of that contract, mind you. $15 million in a rising cap for Connor Bedard in 3 years is going to be so insanely cheap and so insanely valuable. Like, not only did his agent sign this to walk him to free agency, he signed this so that if Chicago still sucks and he can demand a trade, yeah, they can send him wherever, but the bidding war is going to be huge. I like it. I like it because he could go to a rental somewhere else, but the Canucks could, make a big push. They could be there in those 3 years, trade for Bedard, extend him, then he's home, right? And maybe they do a switcheroo. Maybe by then Pettersson's valuable enough to go in a package for Bedard, and you send him to Chicago, and Bob's your uncle. Everybody's happy.
You heard it here first, guys. Dustin Boydell thinks that Pettersson will get traded for Bedard 1-for-1. Oh, no, I added that last.
No, not 1-for-1. There's going to be a package deal, but it is going to be in the year 2029.
Another contract signed. This one almost went to salary arbitration. Jason Robertson down there in Dallas, 1-year deal, $12 million, which is interesting because we know he turned down a deal with Seattle Kraken, which was going to be the same as Bedard at $15 million. So Jason Robertson's also signing a contract that will walk him right into free agency. One kick of the can left for this Dallas Stars roster as it is comprised right now. Jason Robertson getting the bag.
Yeah, I think that's just his smart move by him and his agent. Cap's going to rise again next year. He can put up some big numbers for Dallas this year. And then next year, 28 years old in free agency. If he gets 100 points, 35, 40 goals, that number's gonna add a couple digits.
Yeah.
And a lot of years.
Yeah. Yeah. He could sign a max deal. I mean, if he gets 40 goals again, that is about as premium of players you can get. So he could be looking at $20 million or something the next year when he signs for 7 years. And then the other one we found very interesting, Jet Greaves, who I didn't know who he was until he was playing for Canada at the World Championship. And he actually performed very well. He is a goaltender for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He is going to salary arbitration because they cannot come to a deal. It sounds like they've been lowballing him because the team is going to salary arbitration offering $2.8 million. And Jet Greaves has asked for $7.5 million. This is all according to Elliot Friedman on his Twitter page. What a gap there, eh, Dustin?
Yeah, that remember the goalie of the future?
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know who that is, to tie in another Canuck who's, maybe had contract controversy and some high expectations of himself, was one Kevin Weeks.
Yep.
Who's now an NHL insider. And no shade to Kevin Weeks. And, it doesn't hurt to have confidence, but you weren't the goalie of the future. Jet Greaves, 25, still only played 55 games in the NHL. I mean, so we've heard some players, if you've listened to Spit and Chicklets or anything, they've done some interviews with guys that have been open about arbitration hearings. We've heard former Canucks players talk about arbitration hearings, and feelings get hurt because you're there to prove why you're worth or not worth a certain amount of money, and that goes both ways. So the team's gonna try and prove why you're worthless, and you have to try and prove why you're worth $7 million. And when you look at your career numbers of .908 and 2.6 goals against average, I mean, that's average at best. And yes, the cap is going up. And yes, Columbus has a lot of cap space, but it just feels like a greasy move to be that far apart from the team when you have no real basis for it. So I would expect for him to get absolutely shredded in this hearing and likely just be awarded the 2.8 or whatever the low number is, because an arbitrator is not going to see anything in his career that's like, absolutely, here you go. There's got to be some sort of middle ground, and there's no middle ground here.
I guess the thing is, right now Columbus has $23 million in cap space going into the next season, which is fine. But then you have to remember,
that doesn't mean you hold him hostage as a career backup.
Well, this is the thing is, Zach Werenski will be in his last year of his contract next year, and he's currently making $9.5 million. And Zach Werenski is one of those guys who is in the Norris conversation on a regular basis. So he very likely,
and current Norris Trophy winner.
Yeah.
Zach Werenski.
Yeah. And he's constantly touted as one of the best defense in the whole league. So you're looking at probably doubling that salary going into the next season. On top of that, they have a bunch of other players that they're going to have to re-sign next year as well. Kent Johnson, Dmitry Vorokov, and Kirill Marchenko are a bunch of guys who they have to re-sign. And those are all going to be fat contracts because those guys all together are only making about $7 million combined, right? So you're looking at a 27-28 roster that could be in some very bad situations. No goaltender signed, right? So, yeah. I mean, it kind of gives me the same vibes that the Karlsson offer sheet did, where maybe Karlsson was like, screw you guys, you're nickel and diming me, so I'm going to sign this offer sheet and get what I want. This gives me the same vibes as that with Jet Greaves, where he's like, yeah, I'm going to say I'm worth 7.5 and see what happens.
Yeah. Leo Karlsson had a little more leverage than Jet Greaves, though. I'm just going to say, one's a future center of the organization, and one is a question mark when it comes to, is this guy a starting goalie?
Yeah. Could be interesting. Dustin, is there anything you want to say to the perfectionists out there before we get off for the day?
I hope that everyone enjoyed this week's podcast. You guys are beauties, as always. One of these days we'll get guests on the show and not have to split it up, because that'd be really fun. But again, Russ, thanks for all your hard work. Hope you're staying cool in this ridiculous heat wave we're having in BC. Same with our followers, wherever you are. Stay safe, stay hydrated. And thank you, as always, for listening, liking, subscribing, sharing the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. And we will see everyone next week because you guys are the best and your dedication is why we keep doing it. Enjoy the week and take care.
Thank you very much, everyone, for sticking around all the way to the end here on the Nothing is Perfect podcast. We are going to be live during every single Vancouver Canucks game for the entire season, all 84 games. We're going to have 15 back-to-back games. We're going to cover both the Abbotsford Canucks and the Vancouver Canucks 15 times this season. And on top of that, we're going to have 18 games bonus coverage for the Abby Canucks while we are live with the Vancouver Canucks as well. So if you want to be able to follow along with all of the Vancouver Canucks game and the majority of the Abbotsford Canucks game, to be kept informed about everything that is happening within the Canucks organization, this is your spot. So don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget to share with all your friends who are looking for new places to get their Canucks content. Remember, my name is Russell Holiday. This is Nothing is Perfect. And make sure that you make good choices.
Nothing is perfect.